Hi, good morning, everyone. So, first of all, today I would like to go ahead and begin with the discussion of the practice question that I had given you in the last class, okay, on the Telegram group. Okay, so I've seen the answers that you have given, and the answers are good. But I would like to, first of all, for today, point out the mistakes that you have made, right? And why it may not help you score 100% marks as you know as it's not the right expected answer. What the issues are, I want to go ahead and I want to kind of highlight that today. Okay, so okay, so the first thing which is there, so let's look at the question data first of all. So the question said, discuss the concept of liquidity trap in liquidity preference model of interest. Right, beta? Okay, now try to understand. See, first of all, what I had asked you to do was to write the answer in 150 words. Her question ke, according to the weightage of the marks, you will be having the word limit. Okay. अब इस केस में क्या हुआ है ना, that you are asked that I've given you this as a 10 marks question and you're asked to write the answer in 150 words. The answer समझना बेटे. Now, because the word limit is very limited, बहुत कम words में हमें लिखना है, 150 words में लिखना है, you cannot spend the words on writing what your liquidity preference theory says, right? That is a waste of your, answer, right? So you don't have to go ahead and you don't have to write anything on what is the meaning of liquidity preference model. Many of you have gone ahead and written that, right? So no need to mention the liquidity preference model. There is no need. There are about the concept of liquidity trap within the liquidity को लिखने की जरूरत नहीं, ठीक है? एक और चीज, many times you spend a complete line on telling who gave this model. जैसे for example, I have seen that many of you have written like this, that the liquidity preference model was propounded by Keynes in his book, and you give the name of the book. ऐसे करके आप लिख देते हो, ठीक है? This is a wastage of words. You have to write the answer in 150 words. On 150 words, why will I go ahead and why will I spend my words on telling who propounded it separately, right? Instead of doing this, instead of writing liquidity preference model was propounded by Keynes in his book, Plant Himkan, and wasting about 10 to 15 words, when you start your answer, you can simply say that in Keynesian liquidity preference model, the liquidity trap refers to. And you can continue your answer. So in this, what we have done is, instead of writing two separate lines, जिसमें पहले में हमने बताया कि ये किसने दिया, and दूसरे में हमने यहाँ से शुरू किया कि in this model liquidity trap refers to. Instead of writing 2 lines, we have summarized this in 1 line. कि देखो हमें यहाँ पे पता है कि ये केन्स का मॉडल है, we know this well, right? We have written it here, right? In Keynes model, right? But we are not spending one complete this line on explaining that this was given by Keynes. That is another mistake that is not supposed to be done. Okay. Then another important aspect, which okay, I just received another answer. I will just check that better. Another important mistake that many of you have gone ahead and made is that you should not be going ahead and you should not be exceeding the word limit. This is something which is very, very important, right? So when I gave the question, I clearly said that answer in 150 words. But if you go ahead and if you see your answers, it is about 250 words. No, you have to adhere to the word limit. Word limit is important. You cannot exceed the word limit, right? And that is why it is important to summarize it in smaller sections. Okay. And that any answer will be incomplete if you don't go ahead and you don't make the diagram. Diagram बनाना जरूरी है. बिना diagram के नहीं answer होता. And whenever you will draw a diagram, you need 1 or 2 lines on the diagram also, right? So 150 word approximately. This approximately means about 8 to 9 lines, not more than this beta, right? And if you look into your answer, they have exceeded 3 pages, right? So that is not a way of writing the answer for 150 words or for 10 marks, right? So you should not be doing this. Now, next problem. I have seen that you have written 4 to 5 pointers on the factors affecting liquidity trap and 4 to 5 pointers on the solution suggested for liquidity trap. I've seen you writing like that. कि आपने factors पे भी 4-4, 5-5 point लिखे and solution पे भी. No, you have to summarize them in single line. You don't have to explain them. For example, because this is a 150 word answer, I know that one of the main solutions under liquidity trap is that fiscal intervention. केस ने बोला कि देखो गवर्नमेंट की जरूरत पड़ेगी लिक्विडिटी ट्रैप में, फिजिकल इंटरवेंशन की जरूरत पड़ेगी. ठीक है. या that one of the issues, one of the ways in which this can be solved is through probably negative interest rate, which is not a very good solution, but आपको लगता है ये भी आंसर में होना चाहिए. So you write it in a single line that Keynes advocated fiscal intervention to boost demand. Negative interest rate can also be applied. Answer done. You don't have to explain them 150 words में कि negative interest rate को हम 4 लाइनों में explain करेंगे, fiscal intervention को हम 5 lines में explain करेंगे. No, that is not supposed to be done. That's not the way to write this answer, right? So, when I read the answers, जो भी आप लोगों ने answers दिए हैं, it more or less it felt like you have copy pasted it from books. कुछ ऐसा लग रहा था. You have not, spent time in making your own answer. You have not spent time in writing it yourself. The ideal approach should be that because you know what liquidity trap is, you should have tried to summarize that answer yourself in 150 words. Right? Not copy pasted from. पर वो bookish language का touch आ रहा है जो नहीं आना चाहिए था आंसर में. Right? Okay. Then so I liked one of the answer, and this is shared by, just tell you, this is shared by Mohit, right? So I like that answer. It was close to what can be expected. But let me tell you, there is another issue there, right? So when you write answers for UPSC or Indian Economic Service or RBI DEPR, whenever you write these answers, you don't follow an informal approach. What is the meaning of informal approach? So, for example, if I'm writing, so the starting went well, right? Because why the starting went well? Because you didn't start by explaining what liquidity preference theory is. उस पे आपने focus नहीं किया. You didn't take 5 lines to explain what, who gave it, in which book it was given, which is good. We don't have that much word limit. But what went wrong there is that when we talk about the causes, just as आपने लिखे causes behind liquidity trap, right? What went wrong there is that you started giving those arrows and you started giving points, which is not right. Right? Try to be as formal as possible. इतना informal answer नहीं देना है. So you cannot go ahead and you cannot write like this कि Japan 1990 to present, and then some points here and some point here. Nah, this is not the way to give an answer there. Making a flow chart is fine. That within an answer you made a flow chart. आपने एक formal flow chart proper बनाया. ठीक है? But flow chart would have meant something like this. That if you are writing causes behind liquidity trap, you make a flow chart and you give different causes. 1, 2, 3, but you explain them below in a paragraph, right? Don't make it that informal कि आपने यहाँ पे कुछ दिया और फिर उसके बाद यहाँ से ऐसे you bring out 4 arrows here and you bring out 4 arrows here. Nah, that is not a very good way of going ahead and answering that question, right? So that is another issue which I kind of found out. Okay, so so that's it that I wanted to highlight. Keep within the word limit, right? Make sure you make the graph. Make sure you explain the graph in 2 lines, right? Do not spend or waste time on explaining what liquidity preference theory is. Don't waste time on explaining who gave it, in which book it was given. No time for that. You have to go ahead and you have to mention the causes of it and the solution to it. Mention तो करना है कि causes क्या और solution क्या है, but उसमें बहुत ज्यादा आपको time spend नहीं करना है. माने you don't have to keep writing in detail. It's only 150 words. तो आपको वो answer 150 words में लिखना है, right? And since this was given to you as a 10-mark question, तो जब आप इसको solve करो, you have to make sure that that answer is written within a certain time period, right? Because अभी तो मैंने आपको एक homework question दिया था, तो आपने इसका आंसर टेलीग्राम ग्रुप में दिया. So I don't know whether you took 30 minutes to write the answer or 10 minutes to write the answer. But ideally, there is a time limit, right? You should not be spending more than about 8 to 10 minutes to write a 10-mark answer. उससे ज़्यादा time नहीं है हमारे पास, right? So try to also and way. So make sure that you do all of these things properly. Okay. Okay. So now, let me just go ahead and help you give all the pointers as to how you can go ahead and how you can write a good answer. Okay. So we'll take this question only. This is the question. You have to go ahead and you have to tell what liquidity trap is within the liquidity preference theory. Okay. Okay. Let's start. Adhere to the word limit, right? So you begin by saying that in the Keynesian, liquidity preference framework, right? A liquidity trap is a situation where demand of money becomes perfectly elastic with respect to interest rate, right? This happens typically at very low interest rate, right? Now I want to highlight one more thing here. If you are well averse, right, with your equation, zaruri nahi, dekho, you will score, you can go ahead and score 100% marks, even when you are not aware with the equations. 100% marks आपके आ सकते हैं, ठीक है? So only if you're well aware with the equation, you should be writing an equation. नहीं आती है और theoretically explain करते हो तो भी सही marks ही मिलेंगे, right? So if I think I know the equation well, then I will write this equation that, m by p is equal to ky minus hi, right? So dm by p, how money changes when interest rate changes is minus h. ठीक है? Perfectly elastic. Implies h being this. You can mention it. There is no issue, right? So, but you have to be very sure of what the equation is. Even if I don't write this equation, it will fetch me full marks if I am very certain with my answer, right? That is what is important. If you write the equation, nothing like that. But if you don't write it, it is fine. Okay. Now let's write down further. So this happens typically at a very low interest rate. And then you can go ahead and you can say that what are the consequences? So what's the consequence of liquidity trap? That people don't hold their money in bonds. They hold their money in cash, right? Because they think that holding money in bonds can lead to further capital losses, right? So please write down. People prefer to hold their money in cash, anticipating that holding money in bonds will lead to capital losses. Right. Okay, now you have explained enough what liquidity trap is, right? Now what you have to go ahead and what you have to do is you can make a graph. Now, again, there are 2 or 3 graphs which you will be finding in different books. ठीक है? अब एक बुक आपको ऐसा कुछ ग्राफ बनाने को बोलेगी कि आपने यहाँ पे मनी दिखाया and at a certain interest rate, this becomes perfectly elastic and you call this as liquidity trap. Right? This is fine. You can go ahead and you can, make this graph. The other one, if you go ahead and if you refer to other books, it will be in the form of IAS and LM curve, which will show you that if this is my LM curve, if this is horizontal, right, then I'm talking about a liquidity trap situation. And this is my IS1 and this is my IS2. Now let me tell you what is the difference and which one to use when. देखो, if डायग्राम दोनों ही सही है, दोनों ही लिक्विडिटी ट्रैप के बारे में है, बट क्यों कौन सा कब यूज करना है ये समझो थोड़ा सा. If my question would have been this, that under liquidity trap, monetary policy becomes ineffective. Liquidity trap is a situation where monetary policy becomes ineffective. Elaborate. So here it is asking you to show that monetary policy is ineffective, right? या अगर वो बोलते हैं कि under liquidity trap, fiscal policy is most effective. Fiscal policy is most effective. ऐसा कुछ बोलते हैं. If you are asked such things, if you're given such things, ऐसा कुछ है, हाँ, इसमें वो effectiveness, non-effectiveness की बात है. Monetary and fiscal policies, you're increasing your IS curve, shifting it to the right, shifting it to the left, changing your LM curve, showing किसमें output change होता है, किसमें output change नहीं होता. This is the right graph for it. है ये liquidity trap related है, but this is about policy effectiveness and ineffectiveness. That is this answer, right? But in this question, is it asking you that? No, right? What is it asking you in this question? In this question, as I see, a few of you have gone ahead and drawn this one, but many of you have drawn this one. तो पहले ध्यान से समझो कि कौन सा diagram सही है. In this question, it is only asking you what liquidity trap is. It is not asking you whether the liquidity trap will be effective or ineffective, right? So drawing this one, right? So as I can see that Anika or, I can see Gauri, you have plotted this one. This is correct. Okay? But this is not correct, right? This is to be drawn more when you're talking about effectiveness. And if you still want to explain this in a line, it's fine, but explain this more. Are you understanding it? So we need to also understand कि कौन सा graph कहाँ पे use होगा. Liquidity trap पे चार diagrams हो सकते हैं, but which one to use is what you have to understand. So if I were in your place, I would have drawn this one, and not only this, I would have gone ahead and I would have, along with this, rather than drawing this one first, I would have drawn this graph. And I would have changed the supply of money, right? I would have changed the supply of money. So usually what happens, beta, अगर मेरा demand of money का graph ये है और supply of money ये है, so usually under normal circumstances, when supply of money increases, interest rate decreases. But liquidity trap is that situation when interest rate fails to change, fails to decrease. So if I were in your place, I would have drawn these two graphs first. उसने मुझसे इसका meaning पूछे liquidity trap का, right? And I would have said that, so I would have said consequences of liquidity trap. And I would have said that any increase in money supply, right, fails to lower interest rate. देखो जब इंटरेस्ट रेट गिरता है तो ऑटोमेटिकली इन्वेस्टमेंट बढ़ती है. So if interest rate is not decreasing, investment will not increase, right? So it fails to lower the interest rate, thereby failing to stimulate investment and hence aggregate demand. So investment नहीं बढ़ेगी, and when investment will not increase, aggregate demand will not increase. So this renders monetary policy to be ineffective in reviving economy from recession. Hence, monetary policy becomes ineffective. So we have explained the entire thing in just one paragraph कि देखो मनी सप्लाई के बढ़ने पे इंटरेस्ट रेट नहीं कम हो रहा, अगर इंटरेस्ट रेट नहीं कम होगा तो इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं बढ़ेगी, इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं बढ़ेगी तो एग्रीगेट डिमांड नहीं बढ़ेगी, एग्रीगेट डिमांड नहीं बढ़ेगी तो अगर आप रिसेशन में हो, आप रिसेशन में ही रह जाओगे, राइट? सो इन दिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट, केन्स advocated fiscal intervention to boost demand. तो बेटा ऐसे कुछ भी नहीं लिख देना है, सोच के वर्ड लिमिट में मिला के प्रॉपर प्रैक्टिस करके यू हैव टू राइट द आंसर. जस्ट सी दिस थिंग, हाँ, हाउ डू आई काउंट द वर्ड लिमिट? सो 1 2 3 4. नाउ आई डोंट हैव टू कीप काउंटिंग. It means that on an average in one line, I am writing 4 to 5 words, not more than that. इसका यही मतलब है that according to my handwriting, I like to write 4 to 5 words in one line. So if I just say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, and if I write 5 words in every line, I have written this in 50 words. This is how you count. You don't literally start counting the words. आप एक average लगाते हो. So I have written 50 words in the first paragraph. Similarly, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So 5 into 8, I've written 40 words here. So I've written approximately 90 words, 90 to 100 words, in which I have explained कि एक liquidity trap होता क्या है. ये मैंने अच्छे से समझा दिया इस क्वेश्चन में. और ना ही सिर्फ मैंने ये समझाया कि लिक्विडिटी ट्रैप क्या होता है, मैंने उसके कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस भी बता दिए कि लिक्विडिटी ट्रैप होने से होता क्या है. सो आई हैव एक्सप्लेन्ड कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस आल्सो एंड ट्रैप आल्सो. Now, given that I have done both the things and I'm still left up with 50 words, right? Now I can give examples जो आपने दिए थे, right? कि in Japan or in advanced economies, how empirical evidence talks about the liquidity trap, right? So you can go ahead and you can talk about that in the remaining last paragraph. ठीक है? You can conclude your answer by talking about that. Okay, so try to be very sure of how to go ahead and how to write the answer, right? So now in the last paragraph, I'm leaving it up to you, beta. You will quote example of Japan, right? Which shows empirical evidence of liquidity trap, right? So this is how more or less you will go ahead and you will write the answer within the word limit. Word limit exceed नहीं करनी है. बहुत ही समराइज्ड वे में हमें आंसर लिखना है. एंड वी हैव टू स्टिल मेक श्योर दैट वी लिटरली गिव एवरीथिंग, राइट? दिस इज द वे. ओके, गुड. सो अगेन आई विल पोस्ट वन क्वेश्चन बेटा ऑन द टेलीग्राम ग्रुप, राइट? आप उस टेलीग्राम ग्रुप में जो भी मैं क्वेश्चन दूंगी, प्रैक्टिस इट, राइट द आंसर इन द पोस्ट योर आंसर्स इन द ग्रुप, एंड अगेन आई विल डिस्कस द क्वेश्चन टुमारो. Okay. Now let us go ahead and start with the